All right, for today's video review, we're going to be finishing off our look at the Combiner Wars Combaticon Limbots here, and we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Combiner Wars Special Edition Blastoff. And yeah, this figure has kind of a weird history because he was actually released during the Power of the Primes era as an Amazon exclusive, which I'll talk about in a bit, though still is technically branded as Combiner Wars. So because, like, if you recall, during Combiner Wars, what they often would do, for whatever reason, I guess it was just a way to like get people to buy more figures that they wouldn't have otherwise bought. They started off by like basically replacing the fifth member of each team. So like that's how we got Alpha Bravo for the aerial bots and Off Road for the Stunticons and like technically Rook for the Protectobots. But they didn't do that with the Combaticons. They did release all 5 original members, but Blastoff kind of got the short end of the stick and was just a straight up retool, or not even a retool, a repaint of Combiner Wars Quickslinger, including the same head, which really looked nothing like G1 Blastoff. But the Japanese version of the set had a completely new mold for Blastoff that actually turned into the proper shuttle instead of the like Harrier jet. Yeah, that was just like exclusive to the Unite Warriors version from Japan. And then a couple of years later in Power of the Primes, we got that mold as an Amazon exclusive. And it was technically still branded as Combiner Wars, even though it was 2 years later, because it was like a set of 3 different figures. Like they weren't sold together, but it was like 3 different figures, and each one kind of represented the different years of the Prime Wars trilogy. So the one that represented Combiner Wars was this special edition version of Blastoff, which is all a very weird history, but it's a pretty nice figure, all things considered. It's not my favorite, but you know, he generally gets the job done, and certainly a lot better than just like the, you know, repaint of Quickslinger. But as a result of him being released during Power of the Primes, he does also come with a Prime Master, which is just a you know, straight up repaint of Megatronus, the one that came with Bomb Burst originally with the like decoy armors, but it's just the little Prime Master himself, and is still just like a nicer version of Megatronus. So they kind of gave him a more painted color scheme that wasn't, you know, like Bomb Burst colors, and gave him like the translucent red crystal there, which I think looks super cool. Honestly, I like this guy a lot. Personally, I use him as a version of Mega, like the what do you call it, Power Master, one of the 2 Power Masters that goes with Overlord, and then the translucent blue like Solus Prime one that came with one of the other guys from that set as Giga. So I, you know, have like, they're not exactly the right colors, but I don't know, that's just what I use him for personally. But either way, he's a cool little Prime Master. He works like all the other Prime Masters / Titan Masters. We just fold him up here and he turns into the little you know, the Fallen / Megatronus symbol there. So you know, he comes with that. He also does come with his own hand-foot gun. Now, his is like, I guess because this is the special edition, is like painted in like this nice silver, which, you know, it looks good, but it doesn't match any of the other ones. So like, personally with him, I just used the one that came with the original Combiner Wars Blastoff, just because it much more closely matches the other ones that the Stunticons are using. But this is the one he technically comes with, and then he also comes with a little you know, kind of G1 show accurate pistol here. Now, in terms of storage for all the stuff, there's nothing really for Megatronus, but I mean, they're not really connected anyway. It's just kind of a bonus that comes with the set, so that doesn't bother me. The gun here actually can plug in underneath the nose cone, and has got this little wheel sculpted onto the top of it, so it actually becomes his front landing gear, which is kind of neat, and I like that that actually integrates the weapon storage there. Now, unfortunately, because this piece is kind of loose, like, it's kind of hard to actually sit him down with that landing gear without it kind of pushing up the nose cone like that, but whatever. And this, of course, you're just supposed to like peg onto the top, which looks stupid, but you know, again, as I've been saying with all these guys, I just kind of pretend that these kind of, you know, fly around on their own, so they don't have to connect and integrate with them in any meaningful way. But Yeah, shuttle mode is, I would say, okay. It's a little bit like weirdly flat, and then I don't like how the arms are kind of sticking out of the side, and especially that they have these little gaps here. It makes it even more obvious. But at least they gave him like, thrusters on his hands, so it feels like there's a reason for those to be there. Now, there is, like I said, some different assembly from how it worked in the Unite Warriors version, which I'll talk about more about in robot mode. But basically, these arms are kind of flipped around the opposite way so that this can be his chest rather than this can be his chest. But so it does sit a little bit more cleanly when they're flipped around the other way, but it does work in either direction. But yeah, okay, shuttle mode, definitely a little bit sci-fi looking and silly, but it's certainly a lot better than the Combiner Wars jet there. But in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. Obviously, scale doesn't work at all there, but that's what the two of them look like together. For another shuttle comparison, here he is with Earthrise Skylinks, at least, the top half of him. So this is much more what a shuttle actually looks like, whereas this guy's a little bit spaceshipy, but it's fine. Here he is with Combiner Wars, like the original Combiner Wars BLASTOFF here. So you can see, like, they gave him the color scheme for it, but still he turns into a jet rather than a shuttle, so it didn't really work. But that's what two of them look like together. Obviously, he's far superior. Even if I do have some problems with this figure, he's much better than him. Even just as a toy, generally, like the slingshot slash fireflight mold is not as good, I don't think, as the BLASTOFF mold generally. And then last but not least, here he is with the other limbots that we've taken a look at so far, so you can see what the full team looks like together. Just have Onslaught to go now, and then we'll show off actual Bruticus in his combined mode. And I think this works better. I technically, I guess this guy scales slightly better with them, since jets are much smaller than shuttles, but with these four guys, that none of them scale with each other really, so it's like whatever. They still look good together generally. But yeah, to get onto transformation, first thing you want to do is obviously we'll take off the gun here. You want to take this section up here, and it will unclip from the body here, and then you bring it down like this, and then you take the actual nose cone section, and it's on a double hinge, which is kind of annoying to get over this part. I find that the best way to do it is to just fold it down like that and then fold it in. That's just the easiest way to not scratch the plastic and have it actually get in there. And then you can, I guess before you do that, you want to take the arms and then fold them out like this. So then you have the clearance to take this section and fold it up onto his back, though we'll talk about the options there in robot mode, and we can just rotate around his head. And then for the legs here, you just want to take the thrusters themselves, and they'll double hinge underneath here like that. Take I guess we'll wait to do the wings, but you want to take the whole thing, untab it here, and then double hinge it down like this, classic Combiner Wars style, his work like, Swindles and Brawls do. You want to take these pieces, which are actually just pegged in for, again, a reason that I'll talk about in a bit. But, for this configuration, you just want to rotate this around like that and then fold the wings to the back so they kind of stick off the legs. And then we can just bring down the arms here. And there we have BLASTOFF in his robot mode. And yeah, this is I would say, much better look than the original Combiner Wars version. It just looks a lot more like the both the show and the toy design for BLASTOFF. Like the head sculpt is a lot better, which is definitely nice. Obviously, you can give him his gun here, and he can hold that just like that. In terms of story, he doesn't have anything on the back. What I usually do is I just use one of the pegs on the back of his arms and just peg it on like that, because it's such a small pistol that I feel like that relatively works well enough. But you could also peg it onto the side of the wing there if you want, but this is the way that I find it kind of most out of the way. So that's personally how I store it, but you've got a few options there. Now, he has some kind of interesting options here, because the one bit of retooling that this guy has from the Unite Warriors version, although I guess technically, so I was reading this, I didn't really know about this, but reportedly on the wiki, I was reading that the original Unite Warriors version also had slightly smaller tabs for connecting these bits together, which means that the legs didn't stay together super well in arm mode, and then there was something that made the head fall off. So this guy has some improved tooling from that, which was also used on the Shuttler version, the one that's based on the white and orange original Diaclone, I think, color scheme. So he's got some retooling there, but he also has some like different assembly, because the way that the Japanese version of it worked, basically this whole thing was flipped around like this so that this piece could be the chest. And basically you can do that by either just like switching the shoulders at the ball joints or at the bicep swivel, to have it be basically more like the G1 show configuration, because in the show he had these like 3 pieces on the chest there, whereas the Combiner Wars version, like this version, is meant to be more like the G1 toy, where this chest is more accurate. So you can do that, and then they also have you like take off the like basically you parts form the little tail fins here and then peg them back together, and those can peg into these spots on the chest to give him the more accurate like fin on his back that he had in the show. I can't really remember if that was a thing from the show or the toy, but either way, that's kind of a neat option there, and this is how the Unite Warriors version worked. Now, apparently, the Shuttler version had these, like, he was also, the Shuttler version was the more toy accurate, so it had it flipped around like that, but I guess that one decided to have it switched around to the bicep swivel, and then this one decided to have it switched around to the shoulders. I mean, it's all just like mushroom pegs and ball joints, so you can pop it around however you want for really any of the 3 figures. I do find that this arm feels a little bit loose when it's on this ball joint for for whatever reason, so also because this guy was more designed to have like all the chest detail on this side. As a result of that, he does have a brown chest, whereas even in the show, though the circles are more accurate, his chest was purple in the show. And for the Unite Warriors version, this piece is purple, so that kind of works a little bit better. Whereas this guy is basically, designed after the G1 toy with the darker browns and just having the purple on this side. So personally, I mean, all that considered, like it's nice to have the options, but I do personally oh god, dropping the stupid tail fins, I do personally choose to have it displayed the way this figure was actually packaged, which was with the like toy configuration, so that he's got like the purple detail on the chest and has all the nice like tampographed detail on there, just because I don't know, to me it feels still more accurate to the original show character to have his chest be purple rather and lacking the 3 circles than be brown and have the 3 circles. But it's nice that you do sort of have those options there. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with side swipes. You can see pretty much a average size deluxe. They're only a little bit taller than him. I guess just for posterity's sake, here he is with the upper half of Skylinks there. So whatever, just because they're both shuttles, I guess. I don't know. Here he is again with Megatronus, again just because he comes with him in the set there. Here he is again with the original Combiner Wars Blastoff, so you can see much better. I mean, in terms of just like actually looking like the both the toy and the show designs for the original Blastoff. He really is just a recolored Slingshot who is himself just a recolored Fireflight with a different head, so it doesn't work. So the color scheme does look nice on this mold, but this much more looks like the actual character that you're wanting him to be. And then of course here he is again with the other 3 Limbot Combaticons here, so you can see what the 4 of them look like together. And yeah, they're a pretty good looking crew. And then of course, last but not least, it's time to actually show him off in his limb configurations. As you might expect, the leg mode is pretty much just going back to shuttle mode here. For the most part, you do leave these out because that reveals the actual, leaves the Combiner War or the Combiner port actually revealed down there. You do have to flip the wings the other way to make room for the arms so they can actually tab back in, and then you take you can pretty much just leave that there because it can't really plug in under the nose cone like it did before, because you take that piece just comes off sometimes. You take this and you flip it up back like it was for jet mode so that you have the clearance to take his head, which is on a separate joint here, which can actually now flip into the body, which makes room for the combiner port there. And yeah, that's pretty much how his leg mode looks. Again, you can use either this one or the one that came with the original Blastoff, but just for the sake of the video, I'll show it off with that one there because that's the official configuration. So yeah, works relatively relatively well. And then real quick, I do want to show off just kind of what the different configuration looks like in jet mode if you flip the arms around, because it does actually make a bit of a difference. The engineering and the geometry is there for it to work either way, but when you bring the arms down like this in with this configuration, the shoulder blocks more like tightly cling to the inside of the chest, so it's a little bit cleaner. And then he also has like the like lavender detail on the top there, which I think looks a little bit better than the 5mm ports that were there in the original configuration. So there is some merit to doing it this way, but then it's the wrong configuration for, I think, in my opinion, the better looking version of the robot mode. So whatever. And then in terms of his arm mode, I'm going to leave these on here like that just to again show something off. But you basically want to flip these up like this. And then, you just want to flip these around again. Then you basically just, uncollapse the legs, but then peg them back together. And again, this is one of the things that was improved, I guess, about this version of the mold compared to the Unite Warriors version, that these tabs were longer. So this actually stayed a little bit better. Then obviously just rotate that 90 degrees, and then you kind of just bring this section down, and you don't want to fold it up all the way because otherwise these pieces will bump into the arms. You want to just like fold it up at an angle like that so it can, sit cleanly without bumping into the arms. And then of course just rotate the head to the back as well and put on the hand foot gun there. And there you have him in his arm mode in this configuration. And I usually just like plug the weapon on that way or something like that. Now, the one thing that does kind of suck about the official way that this particular figure is configured is because the arms are switched around at the ball joints rather than the bicep swivels. When you fold it up for this version of the arm mode, these little tabs are kind of in the way, which actually prevents these from like fully folding up. So it kind of sits like that in the arm mode, which doesn't look quite as good. Now you could, like I said, you can swap this around however you want. You could swap it so that the bicep swivel is actually the thing that is swapped around. So that, you could basically, flip around the shoulder chunks. This is in the Unite Warriors configuration for the arms as a whole, but if you did this, you could have it in the Combiner Wars configuration for the, robot mode chest and stuff like that, but still have the arms kind of flipped around. So this is basically how the shuttler version of the figure was sold, and then that way the arms can actually sit this way for the combined mode, and then for robot mode, the one downside to that is because this mushroom peg is a little bit off center. That means that his arm has that slight separation there, which it looks a little bit sillier in robot mode. So whichever orientation you want to do it in, those are the options. Each one kind of has their downsides, just because the way that works the best technically is to have which way do I want this? Right, this goes on here. The way that technically works the best is the way that the original Unite Warriors did it, but that means that the arms will be rotated the wrong way for what words am I trying to say here? The arms will be rotated the wrong way for robot mode if you want this detail on the chest. But if you have it the way that I'm really struggling to get these all back in the correct orientation. if you want it to be in the orientation that this figure originally comes in, then it kind of screws up the arm mode there a little bit. And if you put it in the orientation that the shuttler version of the figure came in, then his arms look a little bit weird in robot mode. So again, personally, I just deal with the arms not fully pegging in, and I keep it in the orientation this figure originally came in. But you do have those options there. I don't think it looks too terrible to have the arms slightly bent. It's just they don't really tab in quite as well. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, those are your options. None of them are perfect, but it's it's nice to at least have the options, I guess, though you really shouldn't play around with it too much because you are going to be like weakening the ball joints every time you do that and flip them around, and same with the mushroom swivels. So like pick an orientation and leave them there. I'm just doing it for the sake of the video, but you get the point. You just want to pick an orientation. Personally, my preference is to give him the orientation that this figure actually came in, which is like this, so the arms look good in robot mode, and that he's got the proper like toy detailing on the chest here. But those are the options. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about this figure. Kind of a weird part of the Combiner Wars history. He also can't, like, his elbows are a little weak, so, and also this joint on the gun is a little weak, so his bunch of flopping. Yeah, I don't know. I personally that's better. I prefer him with this one just because it matches the other ones, but we'll show that off in the next video. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. Like I said, a weird history to this figure, but I do think he is the best version of Combiner Wars Blastoff that there is, all things considered. So, Oh, did I ever talk about articulation? This video is weird. Head, ball joint, shoulders, ball joint, rotate around, bicep swivel, fold up, bend for the elbow, nothing at the wrists, waist joint, can rotate around like that, hips, ball joints, rotate forward, back, out to the side, bicep swivel, 90 degrees of bend at the knee, ankle tilt a little tiny bit. There he is. That's his, I guess you can kind of use these to kind of fold them forward and back too, though it doesn't really work for the forward tilt, but whatever. There's his articulation. Anyway, I'm done rambling. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Combiner Wars Special Edition Blastoff.